Many people live under the assumption that their personal limitations are built into their DNA. They treat an anxious mind, a slow learning pace, or a lack of physical endurance as permanent life sentences handed down at birth. But those perceived boundaries are often just the visible symptoms of an unoptimized brain. Looking at the mechanics of human performance reveals that these fixed traits are actually variables that can be adjusted. Human transformation follows a mechanical, repeatable process of cognitive reprogramming. It is less about luck and more about the deliberate application of specific biological pressures. By looking at 3 case studies, ranging from ancient students to modern special operators, we can map out the exact architecture required to override our default settings and expand our baseline capacity. Consider Marco, a young man who felt paralyzed by a chaotic mind. He spent his days looping through past regrets and future anxieties until he sought out a former psychologist living in a remote mountain village. The psychologist provided a simple physical test. He handed Marco a glass filled to the absolute brim with water. He ordered Marco to walk through the crowded village and return without spilling a single drop. The road was narrow and full of distractions, barking dogs, shouting merchants, and running children. But Marco kept his focus entirely on the trembling surface of the water. He returned having successfully kept every drop in the glass. This illustrates cognitive load, the total mental effort in your working memory. In anxiety, bandwidth is fractured by competing inputs. By forcing a high-stakes balancing act, the brain reallocates its bandwidths to the immediate task, leaving no space to process background fears. Marco realized that when he anchored his brain deeply in a present physical requirement, the mental resources required for distress were simply unavailable. Inner peace was a byproduct of absolute focus on the now. While Marco mastered immediate focus, an ancient student named Varadraj demonstrated how to force long-term intelligence. Varadraj was once dismissed from his school because his teachers believed he was naturally too slow to learn the complex Sanskrit texts. While traveling home, Varadraj stopped at a village well and noticed deep, permanent grooves carved into the solid stone edge. These marks weren't made by a chisel, but by the soft, frayed ropes used to pull water every day. Varadraj saw that daily physical friction allowed even a soft material to reshape a hard one. He applied this logic to his studies, returning to school believing that daily mental repetition could forcefully carve knowledge directly into his brain. This mirrors neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to physically rewire its pathways. Initially, information travels along weak, slow connections. As Varadraj practiced day and night, his neural connections physically thickened, transforming him from a slow student into a master scholar. His transformation suggests that talent is often just a description of a pre-existing pathway. Relentless daily friction is the tool that physically alters the brain's capacity to perform. Our final case study is David Goggins, a man who began his journey weighing 136 kilograms and struggling with severe childhood trauma. Goggins represents the extreme end of cognitive and physical reprogramming. Goggins underwent a radical physical transformation to enter Navy SEAL training. This environment is specifically designed to find and break the psychological limits of every candidate through sustained extreme misery. To endure this, one must understand the brain's safety governor. This is an evolutionary survival mechanism that triggers feelings of exhaustion and pain long before the body actually reaches its physical limit, essentially tricking you into quitting early to preserve energy. Goggins' strategy was to intentionally seek out suffering to desensitize this governor. When his bone density caused him to sink during swim training, he forced himself back in. When his mind wandered during study, he hand-wrote every page of his manuals to force the information in through sheer labor. By repeatedly ignoring his brain's request for comfort, Goggins moved his operational baseline. He transitioned from a man who couldn't run a mile to an elite athlete competing in ultramarathons across the world's most hostile environments. Leaning into suffering and denying the mind its requested comfort is the mechanism for overriding that safety governor. It forces the body and mind to operate at a much higher baseline of survival. These 3 cases reveal the core mechanics of the mind. You can force presence through high-stakes focus, build intelligence through neural friction, and expand your endurance by challenging the safety governor. Your current intellect, physical fitness, and mental peace are the direct outputs of your cognitive environment and your daily choices. Many people spend their lives waiting for a sudden burst of natural talent or for the perfect conditions to begin. But waiting is a passive state that leaves your current brain architecture exactly as it is. The human mind is a machine that responds to the instructions you give it. You have the ability to pick up the glass, pull the rope against the stone, and take absolute control over your reality.